A very pleasant afternoon and a warm welcome to our Vice Principal, HOD of EXTC Department, Dr. Sanjay Deshmukh Sir, Associate Head of EXTC Department, Dr. Poonam Sonar Ma'am, our coordinators, Dr. Kishore Savarkar Sir, and Professor Sakha Gabne Sir, and all of our professors and participants present here. I, Bushra Mujawar, along with Prachiti, will be your hosts for this session. It gives us immense pleasure to host this event and having it graced by you all. The Department of Electronics and Telecommunication of Rajiv Gandhi Institute of Technology feels extremely delighted to offer a very gracious welcome to all of our distinguished guests and alumni, Mr. Santosh Sannakki and Ms. Aditee Biyani, for this event.
Before commencing the session, I would like to introduce our renowned speakers for the day. Mr. Santosh Sannakki is an alumnus of Rajiv Gandhi Institute of Technology and has completed his bachelor's as an electronics and telecommunication engineer in the year 2000. He has worked extensively in developing telecom software for Ericsson, Fujitsu, and Jio, to name a few. He worked as a senior architect and managing consultant at Wipro for over 12 years and also as a consultant at Ericsson for 5 years. He was also working as a software engineer and general manager at Reliance Jio Infocom and is currently working as the assistant vice president at Jio.
Ms. Aditee Biyani is an EXTC pass out of 2013 batch from our college and has completed her MBA from Sydenham Institute of Management Studies in 2015. She is currently the product manager at e-GMAT. She worked as a sales manager at Coffee Day Global Private Limited and was also a revenue and operations manager at QI Spine Clinic. One of her many achievements include that she secured 22nd All India rank and was amongst first in girls in CM80 2012.
Now, I would like to invite Mr. Santosh Sannakki to take the spotlight and share his experiences and journey with us.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm very grateful to get an invite for this forum. I'm also glad to be connecting back to my college. It brings back all the memories, seeing all my professors on the panel still. And I'm very, very happy to see their faces. I'm very thankful to all the staff at Rajiv Gandhi College and the management as well for allowing me to reach my aspirations. There's a long way to go, but yes, I'm very happy where I am today. Just to give a very short background, I had passed out from 2002 from the institute, from the EXTC branch, and I had joined Reliance Communications at that time. I literally worked from the ground up there, and I was lucky to get accepted in the performance analysis department, where I got an opportunity to work with very, very highly recognized people and very talented people. One of the most senior people of the industry in India were working with me at that time as my seniors and super seniors. I got to learn a lot from them. And from there, things changed. I got introduced into telecom software. That is where I actually started to learn that telecom world is not just what we think that it is all the hardware and antennas and stuff. In reality, I came to know about how the engineering program actually prepares us with the fundamentals, right? And that was my first job, and I was extremely lucky to get that role, where you get an appreciation of what you have studied in your college days, and then you get back into the world where you have to apply all of that, be it shortest path routing, failovers, ring mechanisms, whatnot. I mean, I was extremely lucky because we were working on LTE technology there in the labs and CDMA in the production. So if you guys remember the early days, the first version that was released by Reliance Communications was was on the CDMA technology with those small LG phones, right? So that was something that was a revolution which I was lucky to be part of, which changed telecom, the face of telecom in India, and has also led an impression on the whole world telecom forum. So I got to learn a lot of things in my first job. I took it very, very seriously, and I worked very hard. In fact, I kept on thinking in those days, had I studied a little more in my 12th standard, probably, I don't know, I could have got on to research and stuff. It was that kind of hard work. And I used to, in college days, when I used to write assignments and stuff, I used to think this is never ending. Later on in my first job, I realized that that is not true. And the learning never stops. So when the real learning started, it came with its own share of excitement. I was very excited to do all that work. So I used to spend day and night, weekends. In fact, one of my CAT exams I had to skip because I had to attend certain analytics meetings, and I just couldn't go. The whole 3-4 days we stayed there in the office all the while to achieve a certain target, and that is where I actually started to. I mean, this was one point which changed the entire career. That the pace of my career, where the fundamental that I learned, that having an ambition and working towards a goal becomes an extremely important thing. I think I missed this point in my first year education. All my professors used to tell me in the first year, please focus. And I missed that point, and I learned it the hard way in my first 2 years of my career. It has changed the pace in which my career grew from there. The amount of focus I used to put on every word I used to speak and I used to hear had changed tremendously once I learned the simple secret, right? That the amount of focus that we need can only come when we keep working towards an ambition and goal. So I got lucky. I did a lot of innovation there. There was a plan to recruit around 85 people, 85 engineers in my team. And I was jinxed. I said 85 people, who's going to manage, who's going to train them? It would have been a very big challenge to manage that entire team. So then we went on to build a software which, instead of having 85-member team, could achieve all that result much short time and with very high accuracy, with just about 4 or 5 members in my team, right? So and from there my love towards telecom software started off. Many people confuse that software is computer science. That's not true. Software is today a skill, right? And I am been working in the telecom sector for a very long time using all of this skill. Right? I am putting more information here about the first 2 years, because those 2 years is what actually helped me shape my career, brought in that speed in my career, which was extremely important, right? And set my values right. Once you start working with your values and your principles, you set them right, there is no stopping. Right? And everything else is just a challenge. And to win those challenges, we'll figure that out. We always learn how to do that. As long as we set our vision on our goals and we have that focus right. So from Reliance, then after I got the first stint, I was very sure that I have these skills and interest towards building telecom software. So I started looking out. Fortunately, I got a call from Avaya Technologies at that time, where they were into these enterprise solutions. I went there very short time, and I realized that I was put into a technical analytics role. I was slightly strong at that point because of my Reliance Communications background. But I moved out because I was very keen to get into software, and I was very clear this is my goal. And I moved out of that place. I got a call from Infosys. They called for some on-site and some banking role, which I rejected. And then I moved into Wipro. So Wipro gave me a role with Ericsson guys, and they explained me the project. Being in Bombay, there is one disadvantage that we don't get an exposure towards how the software industry is really shaping up. Bangalore, that way, is slightly ahead in terms of exposure that we get in the software industries, right? And I got this opportunity from Wipro, which I took it up. I worked in building the Ericsson wireline switches, then into their wireless switches and VoIP solutions, all of that software, including the switch. I was one of the guys who used to handle one of those H323 protocol, as well as the line block, which runs on top of that protocol. There was a tremendous amount of learning that I got in how the telecom software works, how the protocols are designed, implemented, more than design, implemented, because I was pretty junior at that time. So I implemented under the guidance of my seniors in both in Ericsson as well as in Wipro. Very interesting journey. I fell in love with telecom software, right? Probably at the end, I'll explain the difference between software and telecom software if I get the time. Yeah, so once I developed, I spent a hell lot of time with Ericsson guys developing, contributing into their software stack on a lot of technologies. Eventually, I got back into the operation and support systems, OSS, which is the a network manager layer for the Ericsson suite. I went on to became product owners and did a lot of work in their next generation OSS. And from there, I moved on to Fujitsu, where I got an opportunity to work with SDN manager and the whole orchestration layer and stuff. There are a lot of jargons you guys may not really understand. You can ask these things eventually in the Q&A. So Fujitsu was very interesting. It's a Japanese company, very different culture. But I aligned with their focused way of working. They don't mind repeating things for years together, no matter what loss, unless and until perfection comes, or they are convinced that this level of quality is good enough, they don't move ahead. So I was very happy there, but meanwhile, Jio contacted me and said that they needed some technical leadership in their IoT stack development. I was super excited. I was actually waiting. I was thinking, you won't believe, I used to dream that I was heading one of their IoT stack development. And luckily it just happened. And I got a call from them to join them for developing that entire IoT stack. I was very happy. I requested my Fujitsu director to let me go and join there. I explained him why I'm doing all these things. And then I joined Jio. I developed their the core IoT platform as a service. We have it live right now. Volkswagen and a lot of other things are working. A lot of lighting, smart city projects are already onboarded on them. And now, very recently, with some amount of progression in my career, I've taken a slightly bigger role. So I am now also looking at the ad platforms in Jio, where I am kind of a chief architect for my SVP to ensure that the business visions that he promises to the senior ups, I will be able to translate them into technical language so that they can be realized, implemented, and successfully run with the least amount of downtimes and that kind of things. So yeah, that's where I am. A detail of technical stuff and all, if you guys are interested, it's all there on LinkedIn. You want to ask me, get in touch. I don't mind explaining. Yeah, I hope I didn't take too much time, Prachita or Bushra. So that's pretty much it on the career front. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. That must have been a wonderful experience. Now, I would like to invite our next speaker, Ms. Aditee Biyani, to guide us with her experience.
Hi everyone. First of all, Santosh sir, very humbled to be speaking after you. I'm not even sure if I, should be, but I think you had very good experience, and there's a lot for everybody in this, conference to learn from, especially the students. Please pay attention to everything he says. One very important thing that he mentioned was that the learning never stops, and that is actually the biggest learning that you have after college, because when you're in college, there's certain amount of, overconfidence that if you're scoring well, you'll do well in life and things like that. And just when you go out in the world, you realize that there's just so much more that you don't know, and there's what you know is just so little. And I think that's very, very significant, very important learning right there. Let me tell you guys a little about myself. So I don't have that long a career, so it's a very short one. I have been working since 2015. Before that, I was a pass out of the 2013 batch from RGIT. I had very good 4 years at RGIT. It was the college experience I needed, not necessarily I wanted, but the one that I definitely needed for my personal growth. After that, I joined MBA. I immediately went for an MBA. I was in two minds at that time. Should I, take a break, take some experience, then go for MBA, or just directly go for MBA? And then I just went ahead and did my MBA right away. I did my MBA from Sydenham. It is based out of Mumbai. I'm located in Mumbai only. So I've been a through and through Mumbai girl until I moved to Bangalore, which is where I am based out of currently. So that was that. After my MBA, I joined Coffee Day. Then I moved to QI Spine. Then I'm currently at e-GMAT. I've been in 3 different companies, 3 different industries, and 3 different roles altogether. I started from sales, went to, kind of operations role, but it was more a business manager kind of a role, but obviously not at a very senior position, but more like a business manager role. And now I'm at e-GMAT. I've done a little bit of SEO here. I've done a little bit of customer success, quite a bit of customer success. And now I work on products at e-GMAT and ensuring that our students are able to study and succeed in the GMAT. So from that perspective, we work towards ensuring most of our students succeed, and my work generally goes in that direction. So I would be happy to help anybody who is looking at this career path. But given that it's more a skill-based economy right now, you should all go for what you excel at. And that has been one of my learnings through my career. That credentials and all are good. First, you have to be willing to learn. And secondly, you have to be good at what you do. So you have to pick things that you can be good at and then move in that direction. So I would keep it short. This is about it. If you have any questions about any of these things that I've spoken about, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was very thoughtful and encouraging. Now, let us begin with the student interaction session. Participants who are present in the Zoom meet are requested to raise their hand. You can unmute yourself and ask your questions once we call out your name. Also, participants attending the session from YouTube can put their questions in the live chat. We'll address them as well.
Hello, Santosh. Aditee, can you listen me? My one question. Along with this four-year engineering, you have done engineering and now you are in the corporate world since couple of years. What additional skills students have to acquire during these 4 years so that they can cope up with immediately they can adapt with the corporate work and they can excel very nicely? What additional things they have to do parallel with engineering?
Yes, sir. So, so one thing is like in the global world, I think if you look at Indians, we are looked at with very high respect when it comes to any software development, right? So it is looked at one of our strengths, and it's actually that way the easiest option today in India, at least while we are in this location. It's one of the easiest options for us to equip ourselves with certain software development skills. There are a lot of different ways. I mean, it's not just necessary that you have to do C, C++. There could be a lot of things in the curriculum. That is true. But to start understanding requirements, understanding what a system is extremely important. So then having a skill is also important. So today in my most of my projects, you will see most of the software projects, no matter whether it is telecom, banking, everywhere you will see. In fact, telecom is much mature and a lot more mature process you will see, because extremely complex systems are there in telecom, right? Compared to all other solutions that we see in the industry. So, so here, understanding a system itself becomes a skill. So if I just give you an example, if you look at the canteen in the college, if students can understand the problems there, he has a queue. How can I solve it? Look at that problem, right? And you will see the challenges that a queue on a regular day is not a major challenge, but on a festival day, it becomes a challenge. Can I have a solution which caters to my regular day as well as caters to those spikes? And how does it work? What are those characteristics? You don't have to build them, but if you can understand those as a system, and that itself becomes a skill. And generally, in the leadership area, these skills becomes extremely important in technical leadership. Eventually, when it comes to implementation to start the career, you need to be able to articulate these requirements, and then what could be an approach you would take to implement as a student, right? If like when we do a final year project or a third year project also, in those cases as well, if you can just articulate what is the system that we are approaching towards, what are its requirements, what are its interfaces, what is it going to, of course, you should start always with a vision of that problem statement that we are looking at, and then come down and then have that whole methodology. It allows the brain to, start thinking in how to implement, how to monetize. So if they can articulate these things whenever somebody interviews them on their projects, that will give them a good lead. And having the skill of development, I mean, not just doing simple things, but or rather, I wouldn't call it a simple. One should not do superficial things. One should always approach towards excellence, and that is something like we have to win. Right? Every cricket match is a India-Pakistan match. We have to win. We have to enjoy, and we have to love it. Only then we will be very happy about it, and we will always keep excelling in it. Yeah, so software skills and system studies, system analysis. What is a system? How to break it down, and definitely then going ahead, and if at all we can implement, could be database, could be programming languages, could be any frameworks that we want to use, a lot of things. Any of them can then become a skill.
I think I agree with sir. It's a very pertinent point. Some amount of technology everybody needs to understand, and some amount of coding is good to know, or at least understanding is always good to know, because somewhere or the other you may be talking to another engineer. If you're an engineer yourself, great. Understand business side in that case. That helps to understand how your product will, impact the users. You will build better products like that. And if you are on the business side, then understanding what the engineers have to do or how the system is going to be implemented, like sir mentioned, is very important. So understanding, that level of understanding is important. Learning of that is very, very critical.
Exactly right. Very nicely explained. Student, please be attentive. Take the notes and implement in your daily practice. अपन क्या करते हैं, सुनते हैं इधर से छोड़ते हैं. These people are sharing their couple of year experience just within a few minutes. So please be focused. Santosh has already said, you have to be focused, you have to be learning, and you have to be ambitious. These three parameters you please note down. Aditee has also he has given the very nice key points. Please note it and practice it. Fine. Yes, student can ask the question.
Okay, so I can see many people raising their hands. So we have Sharvari Holkar. So please unmute yourself and proceed with the question.
So hello everyone. My question is for Santosh sir. So what is the scope for masters in our core communication engineering, both in India or in internationally, both?
Yeah, scope is always there. I don't think you should approach towards what is the scope. I mean, what you want from it becomes more important. I'm already started. By the way, I'm now 41 years old. So just an information, I have joined my MTech. I'm doing my postgraduate. So scope is always there. You just have to figure out what you want to achieve with that scope. And by the way, masters is not like graduation. I have given my first exam in masters and I've got it. I've learned it the hard way. There is no spoon feeding done in masters. It's specialization. You have to figure out what you have to do there. right? So you have to figure out what is the scope. And yeah, there is plenty of scope. Trust me, you are lucky to be in this time in this country where we are going to see a huge amount of opportunities. We just have to be fearless. We just have to have that ambition and associate with something, right? And then we should work towards achieving it. We'll do that. Scope is there. You have something in your mind, go for it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I can now see Yavar Ali, who has raised his hand. So, Yavar, you can proceed.
Yes. Hello. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes, you're audible.
Hello.
Yes, you are audible.
Yeah, I have one question for Aditi ma'am. This I had from since 1 year. How is MBA after engineering beneficial for the students? Like, I also want to pursue it, but I also want to know like advantages and how it is beneficial for us to change the whole like from engineering technical background to a bit of finance and to that perspective.
Right. So yes,
Hello.
it is a change. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So it is definitely a change when you go from technical to management because your outlook has to change. Like I was mentioning, if you're the engineer, you need to start understanding the business. If you're the business side, you need to understand a little bit of tech as well. But I think as far as benefits are concerned, we are transitioning to a more skill based economy. At one point, yes, MBA was the most regarded degree. Even now, I would attribute a lot of my thought process the way it is because of my MBA education. So any education that you take up will develop that thought process, you will learn something from it. If you want to go towards management side, doing an MBA is a very easy way to transition from going from a very technical role to a more managerial role, to be more on the business side. Doing an MBA from good colleges definitely builds your skills, builds your network. So I think the USPs of management that I have personally experienced, or that I think are the biggest USPs, and I'm not talking in terms of knowledge because that is obviously there, right? You do any kind of masters, you're going to be learning something new. So two key points for doing an MBA is one, you build a network. You're meeting people who are most likely very ambitious in their careers. So, you will meet those kind of people. Not saying that engineers are not ambitious. Please don't take me in the wrong manner. Everybody is ambitious, but these are also the people who are taking the next step, right? To go more towards those sides. So you will meet those kind of people. You will have a network. And the other thing that I think is the thought process that develops, the way you will start thinking about things. When I was in engineering, I used to think more about products first, or more about processes first, or more about whatever I learn and what I know. That was the outlook. When I did my MBA, I started understanding how customer comes first, and how I have whatever I do in whichever my role may not be directly customer facing role, but everything that I do has to be customer focused. So there's a shift in outlook, there's a shift in way you're thinking. There's obviously a lot of knowledge, ton of knowledge to gain over there, and it helped me move from a more technical role to a more on the business side of things. So if that is your interest, if that is where your interests lie, go for MBA. But if you are more technically inclined, if you're more inclined towards building great products and great technical products in that sense, like in that sphere, then there's a lot to be done there as well. There's a lot of innovation waiting to happen.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay, so we have Radhika Shetty who has raised her hand. Radhika, you may proceed with your question.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, sir. So my question to you, ma'am, that what exactly persuaded you to change your career from technology to management?
So the thing was, I joined engineering. I probably an exception given all the memes that we read. For me, it was not because my parents forced me into it. I was always curious about how things worked, is why I took up engineering. Along the way, I realized I am if I have to do something 8 hours a day, I would be more inclined towards a more managerial role, towards a more business kind of a role. Again, very stereotypical given that I am a Rajasthani, but having heard my father talk about his business all his life, how the kind of pride that he had in the work that he did and all of that, I was always inclined towards that as well. Hope is at some point in time I start my own business, but for now I am doing this. But so that was my inclination. I did engineering because I was interested that time, but I realized very soon professionally it's something else that I'm going after.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Mars has raised his hand. Mars, you can unmute and ask your question.
Hello everyone. So my question is for Aditi ma'am. Ma'am, can you please provide us a few tips on the written ability test and also the personal interview, which is conducted by numerous colleges during the selection process?
So I think one very big thing is practice. First, understand what they're trying to evaluate, right? There are so many candidates who clear their test, initial tests, whether it is CAT, SNAP, or any of those kind of tests. So one round of filtering has happened now, and the first round of filtering is to eliminate people. Second round, from there on, it's more about selection. So think about it in that direction. What is it that you want to demonstrate about your personality there? I think most of these colleges now give a very, like, at least in my time, you were given a topic and you had to write about it. So practice that, practice thought process that comes, so practice more on frameworks. You can read a lot of topics, write a lot of things, that is great, but having that structured thought process will definitely help in your written ability tests. So if you're making a point, there has to be a reason for making that point. So having that framework to write good essays is going to be important. Knowledge is obviously there. Again, you need to know about that topic to write, but I think for me, something that you should focus on is framework, because a lot of people don't do that. They get a topic and they start writing, they don't think about it. Take a step back, 1 minute, think about how you're going to write. What is it that you think is the most important thing about that topic, and how you want to tie it back to the topic and things like that. So I would recommend that, for have that framework, practice according to that framework, writing on different topics. So practice is going to be important. Personal interview, again, a selection round. So think about how you're going to differentiate yourself in that process. Those panelists are going to be meeting a lot of candidates day in, day out. It is how you differentiate yourself, how you know speak about everything that you do. You need to have that passion. It not does not really have to be that you are doing some really great things day in, day out. No, it does not have to be that. But whatever you do, you need to have a certain amount of pride in it, and you need to have a certain amount of expertise in whatever you do. Like Santosh sir mentioned a very pertinent example. You see the canteen guy, he's having queues the entire time. What have you thought about? Like, are you that curious to even think about, is there something I can do about it? And then can you take that example to demonstrate that I may not have done it, but I do have that ability to think about it. Things like that. You can just demonstrate things that you do in your daily life. You think, demonstrate leadership. You don't have to so there's one thing that I hear very often: you need not have a leadership designation to demonstrate leadership, is something that I read very, very often. And those are some things that you can demonstrate in your personal interviews, provided again you're thinking in those lines. So think about it from the panelist perspective. They're trying to select candidates who they think are going to be successful eventually, who are going to make the most of the program, who are going to talk. By the presence of that person, the college is going to gain. Obviously they are going to teach you, but in the future, how you are able to apply that is what is going to bring fame back to the college as well, right? So think about it in those terms, have those answers ready, practice with a lot of people. I think for personal interview, have different kinds of people so that they ask you different kinds of questions as well.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Now we have Jugal Chawda, who's raised his hand. You may proceed with the question.
Thank you, Bushra. I had this question for Santosh sir. So, sir, being an EXTC student, and I have this inclination towards core electronics, telecommunication subject, and then somewhere in the mind, I have this plan to do masters in telecommunication and communication. So, which abroad nations you prefer, to do this?
Yeah, I mean, if you are very particular on a certain subject, right, on where you want to do your masters, that could be the first starting point. And once you know that these are the subjects that I want to do, say for example, antenna technology, right? Antenna technology, then you will see Russia, even China has done great job. So you can look at Russia, China to do all your future studies and research. But if you're looking at any, and by the way, it's not just about core electronics all the time, right? I mean, when you're looking at masters, you are basically looking towards a research career, right? You're trying to get into specializations, whereas at engineering, when you say EXTC, it's still very generic. We may call it as electronics and telecommunications, but it is still very generic. It is still just a graduation level subject, that is a graduation level degree that we are passing. It's not at all specialization. We are slightly inclined towards electronics and telecommunications because we are given certain subjects which talk about how telecom is realized. But trust me, we don't get into a lot of details. Once you get into masters, you will get an opportunity to get into those details. There's a lot of things that we have to do. Many people will many people will think that okay, a lot of things are happening in machine learning. Machine learning is again, data science and machine learning is a small thing. I'll give you thousands and thousands of examples where I apply that in antenna technology, right? In fact, if you look at problem statements like very, very interesting problem statements like how are you going to develop an anti-missile system? You may think that there is a lot of radar, there's a lot of vision and stuff, and then there's a lot of software behind to analyze all that data that you will receive from radars. So that software also has to be built. It could be a near real-time software. It could be a software that runs on microcontrollers or processors. There's a lot of things, and that is not what computer science guys will do. They will always rely on telecom domain people who understand software business or software development cycles, right? So knowing your subject, knowing your interest will be the most important thing, and accordingly then you can choose. In India, if you ask me where you have to do your masters for computer telecom software or telecom systems, I would not go out of India. India is the best place. And if you ask me about antenna technologies and stuff, I would definitely see maybe Russia has more opportunities there. And then if you look at these IoT technologies and stuff for your masters, Germany is there. They are trying to get into these small miniaturized automotive solutions, which eventually get extended to almost all the domains as well. So choose your subject. Masters is all about specialization. You can choose a destination later.
Yes, one more question. I'm sorry. What do you think about optical communication as a career option? Yeah,
so if you see in pandemic, the world economy has been saved only by optical fibers, right? So we have only realized it now that how much importance optical fibers are playing. But I'll tell you one thing, one of the most mature and most stable networks that we have today are called as transport networks, okay? At a very broad level, we have these switching components and we have transport components. And most of these large backbones that we have are built out of optical fibers, whether it is undersea, whether it is pan-India, wherever we have, right? And then we have these optical communications. So there are two components to that optical communications, right? One is the core light engineering that we have. How do we send binary information using light? Then we have all these equipment that is built on top of it. When you try to do masters, you will be doing research. If you say optics, then you will have an opportunity to look at lights and material sciences. Which materials are the best to transmit light, signal to noise ratio, how much long they can take you. The second option would be once you receive that light, what do you do, right? Now, whether you want to retransmit it or you want to process it, you want to do switching, because today we have routers. Finally, all the data that is to be sent, it needs to be sent somewhere, right? In the copper world, we had the signals that would get routed based on physical switching. Nowadays, there's no physical switching. All the routing happens at a layer 3, at a network layer. So you have to open up the packets and figure out what is the next destination. right? You will just get light on off, or maybe different bandwidth colors. After that, what is the next stage? You pass the physical layer, then you have to get on, understand what that packet means. Where should I send the, if I have to retransmit, should I send it to port 10, port 20, which port? Right? So all of those things are again into the network equipment. So there's a lot of optical equipment. So in Fujitsu, also by the way, Fujitsu is one of the specializes in these optical things in Japan, right? And not just in Japan, across the world. But their equipment is way too expensive, so you don't hear much about that in India. Generally, all of those equipment that is done by Fujitsu is all defense grade. It runs in glaciers and under snow, or probably in fire, volcanoes, and all they tend to build systems like that. I'm slightly exaggerating, but yeah. But so basically in optical as well, you will have these choices you will have to make. So ensure that you get the right. See, getting into masters is all about impressing your next look. See, masters is not education. Masters is like employment. You're just, some places you may get paid, some places you may have to pay, right? If you're very good, you will get paid. If the institute thinks that you will add value, they'll pay you. Otherwise, you will have to pay. But the goal of both these guys, whether you get paid or you don't get paid, the goal is research. Finally, you have to invent something that nobody understands, or you have to bring a new perspective that nobody else understands in the whole world, right? And you have to keep on pursuing research, and only then MTech happens, and you enjoy MTech in that way. So keep that in mind. Get good grades if you really want to get into masters, to be able to enjoy masters, not just from an admission point of view, right? So that approach you'll get right here in BTech itself first.
Yeah, so thank you, sir. That was, I guess, that covered a lot for me, I guess.
Glad.
I can see Vishnu Rohit, who has raised his hand. Vishnu, you can unmute and proceed with your question.
Yeah, so good afternoon. My question is for Santosh sir. Sir, as you are from EXTC department and you are currently in electronics, telecom department as well. So from your time, the syllabus has changed like numerous times. So recently in 2019, when the syllabus changed, one thing I noticed was the Mumbai University included more IT-based subjects like data structures and neural networks, which is mandatory by the way, neural networks. And what do you think about that? Is there any such requirement in perspective of electronics and telecommunication, or is it solely the perspective of employability in current scenario?
See, from a university perspective, I don't want to get into it. There's a lot of what you said about employability, so it's a very complex system as a country that we function, right? There's a lot of breakdown. University breaks down into colleges. Then we have UGC, which governs the entire university bodies and stuff, right? So if you really want to worry about those perspectives, then maybe you'll have to get into academia first, right? I don't know if you really, that is your angle, or you really want to understand, is it really going to help you, right? From an electronics and telecommunications background. I would say you will also have subjects like economics, right? I don't know. I had one subject in some year. I don't exactly remember which year, but I remember I had economics somewhere. And we used to question exactly the way you questioned, right? Is it really useful? Or I just need to pass, right? When it comes to making choices, I realized that subject was something I should have put more focus on. Had I known that, right, I would have known the industry. I would have known the laws of the land. If I make certain choices, what happens with those choices? How will I success? If I fail, what happens? What protections? And all those things I would have covered in something, in some way in those subjects. Similarly, here in machine learning, right? It is up to you to apply. Machine learning is one thing. When you say neural networks, these are all data structures, all majorly encompassed in the data science world, okay? And data science world, I'll tell you, is a domain-free technology. Tomorrow you ask me, cooking in kitchen, I will tell you neural networks will come in play, right? You will go, and if you search on Google, there is a Singapore company started by Indians. They built a roti maker, right? And very expensive one. And they were the only ones who made it, which takes all the ingredients and finally makes brilliant fulkas. I tried it in my sister's house when I had traveled to US, and it was brilliant. complete hardware. You look at it, you will say it's all hardware, microcontrollers everywhere, relays and stuff. Internally, it's all machine learning, right? Finally, what is the model that it needs to follow? So many aspects are there. What is the weight of the oil? How much is the quantity of oil available? How much is the water available? What is the input of number of chapatis or fulkas that need to be? So there's a lot of neural net machine learning models, not neural net necessarily, but definitely ML models are involved, right? So if you are looking at these, any of the computer science things, right, do not even separate them from any domain. I would say even if you are a mechanical engineer, go for it, master it. You will not be able to escape these skills. You will need them. Even if you become a manager, I'm sure Aditee will agree. You will be writing formulas in Excel sheet, right? Hell lot of formulas. You will be writing macros, and macros are mini programs, again software, right? So it is like language. If you complain that English I have to learn to become an engineer of telecom, that is not correct. English you need. Similarly, computer science, not really computer science, I would say some skills in computer science you will need irrespective of where you are. And computer science is not really engineering, okay? It is engineering of the software, which is again going to be implemented in certain domains. So domain is electronics and telecommunications, right? And today I have grown, I've got a lot more experience than what I was then. I can definitely tell you, these are just skills, right? And you're lucky you're getting all of these things. I am enrolling into MTech now to gain those, at least to gain certification in those areas, right? I have skills, but I miss college and I always want to learn. I feel something is missed out. So I've joined MTech to do exactly that, which you are getting straight out of into your syllabus now. So all the best. Keep that focus on it.
I think what you said about Excel was very pertinent, and I think it should be something that it didn't strike me when Gabne sir asked. I think everybody should just learn Excel. No matter what kind of job you do, you should just learn Excel. At some point in life, you're going to be using a whole lot of it, and it would be good to know that time. I do have engineers from my company right now, and when I say engineers, I'm an engineer too. But people who are currently in the com science domain, they come to us for Excel, and they just feel that it would be a good skill to have for them as well, even though they have all the knowledge of computers that is available there. Learn Excel, very important.
Okay, so thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Now we have Sakshi Magare who has raised her hand. You may please proceed with your question.
Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. My question is to Aditee ma'am. What, according to you, is the ideal time to prepare for MBA entrances? Like, how much preparation is required?
A lot of it depends on how good you are. So see, a lot of what you're going to be tested on is going to be fundamentals, especially in quant, in math bit of it, right? And being engineers, you're expected to be good in math also. That's the strongest suit. So you should definitely maximize your score there. It depends a lot on the kind of exams you're giving and where are you starting from. So if you think you're not very good at the topics that are being tested, like I think when I gave the test, I had logical reasoning, I had data interpretation, and data interpretation is something most people found difficult. And then we had verbal. Verbal was tougher because we were not used to that kind of, that advanced language that was used there, and there were a lot of words that were new. We had to sit and learn of all of those words and things like that. So I think it will be good for you to assess where you're at right now. But no matter where you're starting, I think max 6 months, but provided you're consistent. And when I say consistent, don't skip, don't start today and then for 1 month disappear. Like, don't even touch your books or whatever. Just be consistent. Make sure if you can find time on weekdays, do that. If you can't find time on weekdays, reserve your weekends for prep. And I think 2 to 4 months should be enough if you're consistent. If you're not consistent, maybe 6 months. But it just depends on how much time you're putting in the prep bit of it, right? Because a lot of math is, some topics are what you have learned in school, and they're not even engineering level topics, right? Everything that is tested is you've studied till 12th. It's just the level of detail, the level of nuances that get tested are slightly more in depth. So you just need to prepare for that bit. So if your foundations are good, if you understand things well, it wouldn't take a whole lot of time. the English part of it, the verbal part of it will definitely take some time. Again, depending on your own proficiency in the language as well. But that's usually an area that I've found that usually takes longer. Math is just about your, if you like it, you will be able to do it. If you're one of those who hates math, then good luck. I don't know what is going to save you, because that will require a lot of prep then.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Yep.
Ma'am, we have Rohan Desai who has raised his hand. Rohan, you can unmute and proceed with your question.
Yeah, Ron. Good question, actually. Yeah. Uh, See, when you look at the IT segment, right? We have plenty of. If you even look at the recruitment, the companies that come for recruitment in your college, right? And you will realize not all companies are always focused only on computer science, right? And there's a reason for it. We don't want to. We don't want only computer science. We don't want a pattern in our candidates, right? We all know that first 2 to 3 years when we are getting students from the college, we don't expect anything in reality, right? We know that we are the ones who are going to invest on you guys to get you ready to that point. And I'll guarantee you talk to any of them who's doing this in his own company or is at a place where he was doing this, you'll realize 80% or 90% of our energy is purely spent on getting the candidates onto a focused plane, right? I'll give my example. When I am building a software, I would always be wanting to have people around me who are also building software, right? I don't want people who are trying to build a business, right? Or I don't want people who are focusing on becoming an actor, right? When I say I don't want, I don't mean I don't like, okay? I don't want, when I say that these are distractions for me, right? And I expect the people around me as well will not be distracted and they will always hold their focus up so that we all will achieve. And no, see, it's like this, right? I mean, whenever you have your own company, do you think you want to have a company which comes second? We always want to be first. We want to have the best, right? We want to be the first. So when you want to compare yourself against CS or especially for an IT job, I think if you have the skill of computer science, you should be able to demonstrate that you are better because you have learned some additional thing as a curriculum, and as a skill you have already gained the knowledge of data structures, operating systems, the previous question, where even neural networks you are getting. And you just have to put those extra effort in looking at what you can do. I understand the kind of pressure you guys have in your curriculum, right? So keep that focus on your curriculum because you made a choice. Ensure that you excel in that choice, right? When you become good at it, that is when you will be able to take the right decision. Right? So this fear of competing with the CS guys in an IT job world, you can just laugh at it. There's absolutely, I'm guaranteeing you will have an upper hand if you have the skill. Nobody is going to ask you to explain, nobody will expect you to answer some theory questions when you get into an interview for a job, right? It is more of an aptitude and what skills you are offering that I don't have to spend too much effort on or time on to inculcate in you if they are aligned with my project, right? So I already have a vision. Say, for example, if Geo is looking for kids from RGIT, right? And what does a Geo expect? I'm not going to build bridges while working in Geo platform, right? I'm going to be building telecom networks. I'm going to monetize it. that doesn't mean I'm going to build I'm going to manufacturing all the telecom equipment, right? So I'm going to buy a lot of equipment. I have to integrate them. So while I'm integrating, software becomes a key component. So when I'm integrating, if you have understanding of a telecom network, then to write that integration software, you are the better person than a computer science guy. Computer science guy will come and say, no, I am not a telecom guy, right? When I say this, again, I'm just trying to answer your question, but in reality, if a telecom guy also, sorry, if a computer science guy also is interested, he also has subjects like computer networks, right? There are certifications from Juniper, Cisco. He can do and become a network security expert, or a lot of jobs where these kind of crisscross is there. So see, an university has to segregate these things to create opportunities, right? Because there is a huge demand in the country to fulfill. So we have created a lot of these branches. So don't get confused by just these names, and work on this fear that there are computer science guys who have an upper edge. As long as you have this fear, forget the job. You will not be able to figure out where you want to work, right? I suggest to every student, please make a choice always. You choose the company. Company should not choose you, right? You make sure you get 3 offers and then make a choice. Right? So, and when you make a choice, ensure you know your heart. You know what you want to choose, on what factors you want to choose. Right? It's not values and all. I'm talking of technical choices. Right? Whether it's a telecom software company, it's a banking software company. Many people, I know a lot of my engineers, a lot of my engineering friends are into banking software. They're at senior level. That doesn't mean they are not technical, right? They're all still techies, still working for a bank, but developing a lot of complex banking software. And they're telecom engineers still doing banking software. That also doesn't mean that they are not away from telecom. There's a lot of network optimizations we have to achieve in a banking software, right? And we have to go. We can't work with just at an application layer. We have to optimize in the Linux OS. If you are aware of the network stack and stuff, we have to go and optimize that as well. If you start looking at Golang, there's a new language called as Golang, right? It's like a easier version of C and C++ in a common language. If you look at that, you will start realizing what all has to be done. So get out of that fear that the CS guys have an upper hand. That's not true. It's about what you offer to the table, what you offer to the company. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you, sir. Now we have Vidya Bole, who has raised his hand. You may please proceed with the question.
Thank you, Bushra. I have a question for Aditee, ma'am. So, ma'am, what made you choose your university for MBA? And what should we look for in the same?
So first, I think go for IIMs. I mean, why not? When you're looking for the university, go for the best. For me, I wanted to stay in Mumbai. I gave my CMAT for that, and then I joined a college I could get into. But I think if you're going for any program, why not select the best university? Why not work for it? If you're going to give CAT, why not aim for IIM Ahmedabad? Always do that. Why don't go for IIM ABC, work towards it, and then see what you can get to, and based on then whatever you are able to, what score you can get, and then based on your profile, what calls you get, then you can make a choice on which college who's suits your requirements the best. Then each of these IIM ABC have different, these are the top 3 colleges in MBA, right, for MBA in India. But again, if you want to go abroad, there's again the whole different world there. But if I'm talking about India, there's ABC, which are the top 3 colleges. Each one of them is very popular for something else, like known for something other different fields that they specialize in. So then think about that, think about those intent that you have. What very similar to what Santosh sir said about engineering. Find your focus. What is it that you want to be doing? If you're too interested in finance domain, figure out colleges that are best for finance, and then work towards getting into those colleges. Same if you're interested in marketing now, but if you're interested in marcom, branding and marketing communication side of marketing, go for colleges that excel in that. don't go for a general MBA in that case. If you have a very specific interest that you want to, if you want to go for logistics, or if you want to, go for operations, you have NEET right in Mumbai, which is one of the best colleges in the country for it. So I think figure out what is it that you want to do. If you don't know what you want to be doing and you're going because you just want to change your stream, get into MBA and business side of things, and that is why you're doing an MBA, then maybe a generic MBA would suit you. But I would say if you have a very specific interest, if you know what you want to be doing, then find the college that is best for that, work towards it. Then depending on how you score and any other constraints that you have, you can pick whatever best is available to you at that time, but always aim for the best that you can get into.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Ma'am, Sanchit Pandey has raised his hand. Sanchit, you can unmute and proceed with your question.
I think we can't hear you.
Sanchit, you are not audible.
Sanchit, you're still not audible. If you could post your question in the chat box, maybe.
Yeah, Sanchit has posted his question in the chat box.
I think that's a very, very interesting question, Santosh sir. You first, though.
Yeah. So during college, I don't know. We 2002 batch. We started the Envision for the first time when we moved to Warsaw campus, and I was not the chairman, but I was the secretary. Yeah. So I was the secretary of the Envision committee from the student committee. Yeah, so there's a lot of organizational skill. That is where I actually came to know that I am not a business person. Okay, I want to continue my technical side of it is what I realized doing all that. But interesting thing was, see, this world is made up of people finally, right? And we all want to have fun. So if you have done certain things like this, then when you go for an interview, there is one thing we assume that you have already gone through certain human challenges, how to communicate with so many people, right? How to, you say something and it becomes a politics. Somebody says and you pursue something else and that becomes a politics, right? Is people getting offended. All this we have also faced. Friends getting offended. I don't know. In my time, one of our favorite sirs was also a little angry. We didn't know what the reason was. I really personally didn't know. But then I saw how other professors got in, tried to convince him, and he was not getting convinced for anything. But eventually he came in and he gave a brilliant speech. So I then started realizing that the world is in reality made up of humans after all, right? So all these social curriculum activities actually show your energy levels, and this becomes extremely important for us, right? So this is like a certificate you are showing to your recruiters that, boss, I am a very high energy person. I do my studies. I am also doing this, right? And I'll be very happy to get such people, because when you come to a company, we work. I mean, we really work very hard. You will start very soon when you get into when you leave your education behind and then you get into career. That is where you'll actually start realizing that what you used to call as such hard work to study, you'll start realizing how much of a luxury it was. Time, especially. So much time we used to have at that time, which that time I used to complain, I just don't have time. right? So it was such poor planning on my side. So now, so so to answer your question, if you are saying you participate in these things, you are basically showing your recruiter a certificate. Was you don't have to assess me. I am already certified. See, I have done so many things. So my energy levels are high. I have an experience. So use this word experience. Okay, it's a lot different than knowing. Knowing is something, and having an experience of that thing is totally different. So when you say that you have experienced how to deal with people, large number of people, an event, right? Huge number of challenges. This is a certificate. This is a good thing on your mark, right? Hopefully, you have learned by doing all those things. You should have also learned all this. I assume. At least I had learned a lot. I used to observe a lot. I used to be a lost soul in a lot of guys. When they'll be discussing, I'll be like asking, "Can you please repeat? Can you please repeat?" So yeah. So
I think, yeah, like very important point. It develops your interpersonal skills, right? Not everything you do has to necessarily, work towards your career ambitions. Obviously, this does help interpersonal skills that you develop, meeting with people, talking to people, understanding all the risks that you're going to, there's something that we don't think about inherently when we are working on a project. Like, and this is one time when you realize that you're planning an event, and if everything goes right as the planning everybody does, this will happen at this time, this will happen at that time, and then 5 minutes later we'll do this, 10 minutes later we'll do this. Turns out the person did not show up for 1 hour. Somebody who had to do something in the first minute, and that person doesn't show up for 1 hour. How are you going to control the crowd? Because this is something that happened to me when we were organizing a robotics workshop in college. The people who were going to conduct the session didn't come for half a day. They were delayed by some reason, for some reason. And for half a day, we had people who had paid for that session. They were just sitting around, and we had people from other colleges as well who had paid and come for that session, right? And then we are managing everything, running around to make sure that they are comfortable. At least people started complaining about a lot of things, that are why people, why is the session not started, this and that. So many things happen. You just learn how to manage all those problems. You learn a lot from that, and that is very important. You develop interpersonal skills, and you learn how to, balance all these things. And next time when you're planning an event, you will take this into consideration, right? You'll learn that this is something that can go wrong, and then now let me plan for it. You just become a better planner, and this is something that will be very, very useful for you even in your daily project management. Anything that you do, whether it's you're writing a code, whether you're doing something else, you have to think on how things can fail. I think this is my learning. Till you're in college, you think everything is perfect, right? It's a utopian world. Everything will work like we thought it will work. And then when you have to do such things, you realize, oh, everything that can go wrong will go wrong. And this is something that plans you for it. It's interpersonal skill. Very specifically, if you want to ask from resume perspective, I think if you are holding any kind of position in any of these committees, you can demonstrate that as leadership skill. You can, the certification that Santosh sir spoke about, if you manage to be a leader, a chairperson, a secretary, or anything, a treasurer in IEEE that has, uh, 80 other people from college, and then you manage to get a leadership position, you can immediately demonstrate that leadership skill, right? You have demonstrated that you can handle a team of so many, and you can handle an event that was attended by 200 people. So this is something that the recruiter does not even have to ask you, they know about it. So I think you have to look at it from both perspectives. One, your personal growth, your personal learnings. And then the second is obviously how you use your experiences to demonstrate your differentiation at any point in interviews is always a great skill. I mean, so from MBA, I was a part of my placement committee as well. And one of the recruiters, one of the interviews, I got selected, and I was meeting the chairperson of the company. And turns out he was also a placement committee officer. He was also in the placement committee. And then we had a conversation for 5 minutes about that. So it gives you more talking points. You become a more interesting person because, you can speak about more topics and more things in your interviews. So it will help you in a lot of ways. It's just a lot more experience that you gain when you're doing all these things. Don't let that compromise with your studies though. I mean, it shouldn't be only this and no studies.
Vishnu.
Thank you, ma'am.
I think it was a wonderful interaction. Vishnu, can you?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll be concluding right now.
Okay, so we don't have any more questions. With this, we end with the question answer session. Over to you, Prachiti.
Thank you. Now I would like to request our Vice Principal and HOD of EXTC Department, Dr. Sanjay Deshmukh sir, to render the vote of thanks.
Well, thank you so much. It was really a wonderful session. On behalf of the Institute and on behalf of the department, I would like to express my sincere thanks to our distinguished alumni, Santosh Sannakki and Aditee Biyani, for sparing their valuable time with us. They have provided various, insights on all the questions that were asked. We are very thankful to you for sharing your experience, for sharing your skills with the students. That is the objective of the program, actually, this alumni interaction. That various alumni, our alumni, we are proud that they are working prominent positions in various sectors. We like to have the interaction so that our student, as Santosh mentioned, that there are post-pandemic, there are a lot of changes happening in the industry. Technology is changing, processes are changing. So the student will interact and will know through these kind of interactions that what are the skills that they should adapt. Because Aditee mentioned that adaptability is the most important skill that students should learn post-pandemic. So once again, I thank you all for sharing your valuable time with us. And our team has done an excellent job for organizing this session. I would like to also appreciate the efforts of the coordinators, our professor, Professor Gavne, Associate Professor Dr. Mahajan, our entire IEEE and IET members. They have done excellent job, technical aspects in handling it in virtual way. Thank you all for joining. I hope this is a great learning experience to the students. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So as we come to the end of this interactive event, I request all the participants to please fill the feedback form. I would like to thank all of you all for joining. I hope your knowledge has been expanded through this event. Now we extend our warm gratitude not only towards Mr. Santosh Sannakki and Ms. Aditee Biyani, but for taking out their valuable time to impart with us knowledge and their experience, but also towards all of our professors and participants for without whom this event would not have been possible. Last but not the least, I would like to thank all the attendees for enthusiastically participating in this event. We now conclude this session with the national anthem.
जनगण मन अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
The event has ended. Thank you everyone for attending. The participants can leave now.
Santosh sir.